Hi, I'm Adam and welcome to the garden. In our video today, we're going to focus on watering our plants. I'm going to talk through some of the do's and don'ts and what we should be doing and how we can avoid overwatering or underwatering, and share some techniques with you as well on how you can get the best out of your plants in your garden. One of the most important things in terms of looking after our plants is watering, and that's one of the most common garden questions around in terms of when and how we should water our plants. Now, these are the main basic principles that I follow in my garden in terms of looking after my plants. Firstly is assessing whether we need to water our plants, and then when we should water them during the day, and then also lastly, how should we water our plants and what should we use. So the first thing to do when going about watering your plants is to consider whether your plant actually needs watering or not. And one simple technique that I use is by placing my fingers slowly in the soil, like this, I can feel how much water content is in the soil itself. And if I remove my finger, and as you can see here, it has a residue of compost or soil on the skin, I know that this compost is moist enough so that it doesn't need watering. However, as you can see with this pot here, it's evidently dry anyway, but if I place my finger again into the compost here and pull it out, you can see that the soil itself is like dust and falls off my skin. So by that logic itself, this definitely needs watering compared to the first pot. Another common gardening question is, how do we determine whether we're overwatering or underwatering? And it can be difficult because the signs are very similar. For example, if we're overwatering, the leaves will yellow, but also the roots in the pots itself may show signs of rot. But if we're also underwatering, the leaves may turn yellow, but you won't find any obvious signs that the roots themselves are rotting. As you can see with this squash plant here, the leaves on the bottom have turned yellow because sadly I have overwatered this plant. But if I allow it some time to dry out, it should recover just fine. One of the important things to consider when watering is the time of day. From my experience, it's always in the morning, between sunrise and 10 AM in the morning. The reason we do it this time of day is because plants at the beginning of the day need the nourishment and the water to help them through the day to establish and grow strongly. Also, when the sun's at its hottest around midday, if we water at that time, not only does the water evaporate quicker, meaning that we're not watering efficiently, but we also risk burning the leaves of our plants as well, because the sun's strength can actually warm up the water on the leaves and affect the plants. The main reason for this is as the sun gets stronger during the day, especially around midday, watering becomes less effective. One, because it evaporates quickly, obviously, in the heat of the day, but secondly, we also risk burning the leaves of our plants. As the heat warms up the droplet, we can leave burn on the leaves themselves. You can also water late afternoon, early evening, if you haven't had a chance to do so in the morning, because obviously by then the sun's strength has decreased from midday. Another thing to remember, and it's vitally important as well, is if we haven't watered a certain plant and it's suffering from a lack of water any time during the day, it's important to water that plant because we risk losing the plant anyway. So it's better to risk it rather than not to water it at all. Now, one of the disadvantages of watering late afternoon or early evening is that you leave the ground moist during the evening, which entices the slugs out, and obviously slugs will feast on some of our more tender plants. And that's why we emphasize that watering in the morning is better than the evening. So what techniques can we use to water our plants? One of my favourite ways of watering plants is using a watering can and collecting water via a rain butt naturally outside, because I find that rainwater is far better to develop strong and healthy plants than tap water. I've just come into the greenhouse to show you how I go about watering my young seedlings and plants in here. And one good tip that I find is to organise the seedlings in the greenhouse from the smallest to the largest. So on the top here I have the smaller seedlings, then the medium-sized plants and the larger plants. This ensures that when I'm watering the plants themselves, that the younger tender plants don't get damaged from the runoff of the water as I'm watering. As you can see here, whilst I'm watering the top layer, gradually and surely the drips themselves fall to the other layers, thus watering every layer of plants at the same time. This means that we water in a way that's far more efficient and reduces water waste as well. Another way to water your plants is by placing them in a tray that holds water. You can use a plate, a saucer, or any kind of water holding tray. Essentially, this is what I've got in the greenhouse here with this bottom tray. And this is a very good technique of watering from the bottom up. By doing this, larger plants, for example, thrive better when their roots are continuously moist at the bottom layer as they would be naturally. As you can see under this tray of French marigolds, the roots are now ready to source the water from the tray itself. I enjoy this method particularly on hot sunny days as it creates humidity within the greenhouse and also helps the larger plants establish. Another technique is to use a hosepipe. This is especially important if you have a large garden, but one tip I would recommend is to find yourselves a water spraying gun like this one that has varying different water pressures, so then that you don't harm the leaves of the plants whilst watering, because sometimes the water can be rather powerful, as you can see from the different settings on this gun. And if you have seedlings, for example, the Mistifier setting is far better for watering rather than the strong jet setting. But as a general rule, your safest bet is to use a shower setting, as this disperses the water sparingly. There are many different ways that we can water our plants in the garden, and I hope that I've shown you some of the techniques that I use in my garden here. But remember, every single plant has individual watering needs, so do a bit of research in terms of the exact needs of the plants you're growing at home. Also, we would love to hear from you in terms of the techniques and the tips that you have on how you water your plants at home. And if you'd like to share your stories with us, please leave a comment below this video. Tan y tro nesa, hwyl am y tro.